All right, well, welcome to my handmade book class. Should you decide to take one or just collect a little bit of information about what I like to do, I think it's important to collect our work into some form of books. And as creative people, we can ask the question, what would a book be if an artist made it? I think that publishing your stories either with a publisher or self-publishing or making your own books is very important. So I'm going to show you a little bit of an overview of a collection of books I've made over the last few years. And then the three techniques we're going to cover in the rest of the course. The signature, the accordion book, and then the Japanese stitching book that we're going to do. This little book is titled No, and I made it about 20 years or so. On the side it says commandment number 1. My son had recently had a paralyzing accident, and he had a commandment number 1, which was no complaining. So I made this book to communicate that fact. This is a prayer book that I created about the same time my son had his accident. This is covered with hand-dyed silk that I made, and this is a poem that I wrote, Common Prayer to the Virgin Mary. Again, I was able to print it on some handmade paper with my computer to express my thoughts at that time. So there's lots of ways you can get text in your artist book. It doesn't have to necessarily be done by a publisher. You can use your own printer at home. This one has a fold out in it with a text layered, crisscrossing. Another story that I was telling, this is like a form of an accordion book. And again, I was able to run this paper through my computer. So the first book we're going to make is a basic book with a signature stitch. And you can see it on this book. On the outside, it's like an infinity stitch. It just goes across a certain distance and then goes inside. And somewhere it ties. So this was, again, many, many years ago, right when I was starting to learn how to adapt the computer to different techniques. And I made 4 little books with signatures. And each one is different. I have some like handmade bark paper on there, some various colors that I really like. You can see the signature right on here. I left the string, I tied it on the outside and left it. This one, the stitch is put on the outside instead of on the seam there, but it's on top that you can see it. We would get into more about this during the class. So the next book we're going to make will be an accordion fold book. And this is a great way to share pictures, to make gifts for people. I kind of wanted to share a little bit of a legacy for the women in my family, so I titled this the Laverne Zabielski women. Again, it's covered with some of my hand-dyed silk, but you don't have to do that. There's all kinds of things you can do for your cover. And the concept for this book came from a picture of my daughter at a very young age, standing there with her hands on her hips. And when I go through the old photos of the women in my past, they all have this stance. They all have this way that they put their hands on their hips. So I wanted to capture that aspect of the Laverne Zabielski women. The last stitch that we're going to make will be the Japanese stitching for the journals and photograph books. This next course, not the first course I teach, but course number 2, we will then go on to doing the hardcover books. So what this has done is that it's no longer the soft cover, but you have placed your paper onto a board, and you have a nice hardcover. So I think it'll be fun to work with you and see what kind of books you come up with. I'm looking forward to it.